LiberalViewer presents.
So, welcome to the September 16th edition of LiberalViewer Monday Media Mixup. Thanks for joining me and Chong, who doesn't seem to want to be on camera here. I'm going to put Chong down. I'll be using the 14 best, most newsworthy clips I picked out from the Sunday morning news analysis shows from the big five corporate outlets of ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox News, the so-called corporate media here in the United States, for which it'd be a really educational, informative, fair use media criticism and political commentary show for you all today. Now, if you remember last week before the debate, the day before the debate, I asked the question, can Trump debate 90 minutes with no embarrassing lapses? And I showed this clip of him like going off on this tangent about tariffs when he was supposed to be talking about childcare. And I set that as the bar. And whoa, did he like blow through that. He had so many embarrassing lapses in the debate. He lost the debate big time. He got played by Kamala Harris. He baited, that's the word I heard over and over again, baited by Kamala Harris. But it's actually now almost a week after the debate. And I kind of have a question about whether the Trump campaign has won the post-debate spin. And I'm going to address that, especially with the coverage on the Sunday morning news analysis shows, because a lot of the post-debate coverage focused on his one thing, his most outrageous, like misinformation, disinformation, lie, bomb, whatever you want to call it, that, you know, they're eating dogs, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. You'll see it in the news summaries coming up, that Haitian immigrants are eating pets in Springfield, Ohio, which I'll show about half of J.D. Vance's cross-examination by Dana Bash on that, where at one point he seems to say it's okay for him to create stories as long as they bring focus onto actual suffering by the American people, and that's also kind of created its own news cycle about him saying that. But my point about how this is a victory in the post-debate spin is it's this strategy that Trump has used ever since he came down that escalator, what was it, June 2015, and he started making outrageous statements about immigrants because he thinks immigration is his best issue. He actually, of all the issues, it's one of the top three issues for most Americans, and of all the issues, it's the one that he leads Kamala Harris the most on. So even if people are talking about some crazy thing he said, if they're talking about immigration and like repeating some of his criticisms of the Biden-Harris administration on immigration, well, just in that sense, he's winning the post-debate spin because he said so many crazy things. You know, I'm going to show you a couple clips from the debate that aren't getting as much play because of the whole eating the dogs, eating the cats thing, both of which I think there's like a cat battle going on to my left here. Sorry if I keep looking over. I don't know why they're they battle a lot of the time. But Cheech and Chong, the kittens. I will have a bonus Cheech and Chong, the kittens clip at the end. But I want to start with one of these two debate clips that, I mean, over and over again on Fox News, I hear them accuse Kamala Harris of not having a plan, no details on the plan. Well, one of the most embarrassing things that came out from the debate, and it was covered briefly on one of the Sunday shows, but it was when Trump said he still has no healthcare plan. He has the concept of a plan. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you saw it and remember it, but I'm going to show you that brief clip as this is one of my two political like absurd comedy moments. My two political comedy clips both come from the debate. You can see a list of all my clips summarized down in the video description, all 14 clips. Here's 40 seconds from the debate that is an embarrassing lapse that I promised last week over here.
What we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. and you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
Vice President Harris in 2017.
You'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Wasn't everything was supposed to be coming in 2 weeks? It's going to be a great healthcare plan. We're going to replace Obamacare. We've been hearing that whole thing for 9 years, and for him to be hit with that at the debate, that was a really embarrassing moment for Trump. Not getting a lot of play. I think it got asked in one of the J.D. Vance interviews. He got asked about that, but the really embarrassing part, or another really embarrassing clip I wanted to show you that I think no one really picked up on, or no one did fact check. Trump does not know the difference between a bill and an executive order, or he sort of does, but he doesn't know the term executive order, or he can't say executive order. I mean, he just says bill, 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 and you can't do it with the bill, but you don't need a bill, you just get the bill. And this is another, just under a minute from the debate, of Trump embarrassing himself, another embarrassing lapse I wanted to show before I get to the news summaries and the rest of the clips over here.
Let me ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right. You'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight.
So yeah, that's it. You don't need a bill. He just has to sign a bill. He's talking about executive orders, obviously, but he's a low information president. They talk about low information voters. He's a low information candidate. He just doesn't know that much. And that was another, I could have come up with like 5 or 6 other embarrassing lapses, but the show's already going to be like closer to 90 minutes than 60 minutes, I think, because of a couple other clips I threw in here. So let me get to the news summaries, 2 of which are over 6 minutes, really long. The longest one is, again, NBC News Meet the Press. Kristen Welker does a much better job of covering the debate with actual clips of the debate, and then the aftermath about the debate, and then focusing in on this false claim about immigrants eating cats and dogs in Ohio that like I said, I mean, I don't think Trump is really losing many votes by saying crazy things about immigrants. Like, is there anyone left who he's losing as a voter because he said some crazy false statement about immigrants? But he is bringing the focus of the news coverage onto his best issue, immigration, even though it's totally false. They need to do like a deeper look at it. I'm going to show you the Republican governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, say something, really good about the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, how they're like actually helping the town and the economy of the town, but that the media never gets that deep, or if they do get that deep, it doesn't break through like the, invasion of immigrants and cats and dogs are being eaten stuff. And anyway, that's all in the Kristen Welker news summary here. But then they go over to Steve Kornacki, and I criticize them for doing that. They spend all this time on a poll that basically, and I think he explicitly says this at one point, the poll looks a lot like it did pre-debate. So I guess you're showing that the debate didn't really affect the polls, which that's kind of an important news story, but they spend way too much time on it, which is why this is the longest news summary, which I will talk about with you a little more after we watch the NBC News Meet the Press news summary with Kristen Welker and the famous Steve Kornacki over here.
Good Sunday morning. We are now just 51 days away from Election Day. And after the first debate this past week, the race is still incredibly close. Former President Trump's allies want him to spend these critical final days talking about the issues on voters' minds, the economy, health care, immigration, and focusing on the vice president's vulnerabilities. Instead, Mr. Trump spent most of the week falsely claiming that migrants are eating pets in a small town in Ohio and defending his association with a far-right agitator who other Republicans have condemned. On Tuesday night, former President Trump and Vice President Harris faced off for what may have been the most important 90 minutes of the campaign.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. Clearly, he is having a very difficult time processing that.
I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
During the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
Now, former President Trump doubled down on baseless claims he made on the debate stage that members of the Haitian population in Springfield, Ohio, are abusing pets. City officials say there is just no evidence of that.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They take in the geese. You know where the geese are? In the park, in the lake. And even walking off with their pets. My dog's been taken.
This morning, Springfield is on edge after days of bomb threats that closed public schools, government buildings, and hospitals. Former President Trump also defended his association with far-right activist Laura Loomer, who traveled with him as he made multiple stops on Wednesday to mark the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th attacks. Just last year, Loomer posted a video on social media that called the 9/11 attacks an inside job. This week, she posted a racist tweet about Vice President Harris. Some Republicans are condemning her. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis writing, quote, Laura Loomer is a crazy conspiracy theorist who regularly utters disgusting garbage intended to divide Republicans. Trump allies tell NBC News that there are real concerns about Loomer and Trump's relationship and worry Loomer could cost him votes in key battleground states. During a news conference on Friday, Mr. Trump downplayed his connection to Loomer, but did not disavow her statements.
What value do you feel that Laura Loomer brings to you? And has nobody told you about the conspiracy theories that she has promoted?
No, I don't know that much about it. No, I don't. I know she's a big fan of the campaign, but I really don't know.
What does she bring to you?
I would say that, well, she brings a spirit to us that a lot of people have. We have very spirited people.
Later, he posted on social media, Laura Loomer doesn't work for the campaign. She's a private citizen and longtime supporter. I disagree with the statements she made, but like the many millions of people who support me, she is tired of watching the radical left Marxists and fascists violently attack and smear me. For more on where this race stands with just over 7 weeks until Election Day, I'm joined now by national political correspondent Steve Kornacki. Steve, what does it look like post-debate?
Yeah, Kristen, well, it looks a lot like it did pre-debate, but let's take you through what are we looking at here. First of all, this is the national poll average here of Harris ahead by 2 points. The NBC News average of the major national polls over the last 2 weeks. And that means just about half of the polls that are in this average have now been conducted after that debate. And you see Harris with a 2-point lead nationally. And of course, one of the things we've talked about is in the last two elections when Donald Trump ran, 2016 and 2020, he lost the popular vote in both of those elections, but almost won the Electoral College in 2020 and did win the Electoral College in 2016. And here are the states that we think will determine the Electoral College, the 7 core battleground states. Again, the NBC News poll average here, they are very, very close. You could see that Harris with slight advantages in some of these. Trump in Georgia and Arizona, North Carolina tied. Would also flag for you. You remember in 2016 and 2020, one of the stories of the election, polls were off, and they were off in specific places. 2 of the states that missed the biggest in polling in the last election were Michigan and Wisconsin. And notice those are the states right now where Harris has her strongest advantages in the polling in 2020 and And in 2016, in those states, Trump voters, blue-collar Trump voters, were underestimated in the polls. It's a question. Has that been fixed, or is that something that might happen again? Let's take a look, though, at the road to 270. Now, here's a big if, and I stress it's an if, but this is just to show you. If we took this, the states that are Harris blue right now in the average, the Trump red, North Carolina tied, and we plugged it in to the 270 map, you see that would have Harris at 276, Trump 246, 270 obviously needed to win, but again, extremely close there. And from Trump's standpoint, even looking at this, here's the path for him. It's the simplest path if he's going to win this presidential election right now. Again, with that small lead in the poll average in Georgia, North Carolina tied. And remember, Trump did carry North Carolina in 2016 and 2020. So let's say Trump were able, this is just sake of a if here, but if Trump were to get North Carolina, then he would need one of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. 3 states he carried in 2016 that he lost to Joe Biden in 2020. But you'll see right here, just with Georgia and Carolina, if he wins Pennsylvania, he's got what he needs. If he wins Michigan, he's got what he needs. If he wins Wisconsin, he's got what he needs. So bottom line, the Trump path, pretty simple there. The Harris path, protect those 3. We'll see what happens, Kristen, going forward.
A fight to the finish. Steve Kornacki, thank you so much.
You got it.
And joining me now is former President Trump's running mate, Republican Senator J.D. Vance.
And I am going to give you a couple of clips of Senator J.D. Vance, including his interview with Kristen Welker. A couple extra things. First, I also thought it was important to show that Steve Kornacki analysis of what states could win the election for Trump and Harris there, because I believe at the end of last week's show I was saying something about how I didn't think that either candidate could win without winning Pennsylvania. And I guess there are actual pathways. For example, Trump, if he wins North Carolina and Georgia, like Steve Kornacki was just saying, he could win any of the 3, Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. He doesn't have to win Pennsylvania. He just has to win one of those 3 with the other assumptions that Steve Kornacki was making there. So there are pathways, especially for Trump to win without winning Pennsylvania, but I think still that it's likely that the candidate who wins Pennsylvania will win the election. Oh, looks like Cheech has crawled up behind me here on the chair. The one other thing that I wanted to point out, that's surprising. I got to make sure he doesn't destroy my book setup here. But the one other thing I wanted to say about that ABC News report that I thought was important is that they actually covered the Trump association with Laura Loomer. I don't think they explicitly said the most important part, like Trump brought a 9/11 truther to a 9/11 memorial ceremony. I mean, that seems almost like that's like The Onion or something. That's like seems like a joke headline, but that actually happened. And you would think it's one of like people get so used to Trump's ridiculous destruction of norms, I guess you could call it, because it's not illegal to bring, it's just a norm that you don't bring 9/11 truthers to 9/11 memorials, I guess. But that's something Trump did, and it got covered, and Laura Loomer got some real coverage. I don't think they mentioned that Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said that she thought that Laura Loomer was too extreme for the Republican Party. But that was one of the other humorous moments from that whole debacle. But anyway, I wanted to give kudos to the NBC News Meet the Press news summary there for including the Laura Loomer story and the clip of Trump talking in Rancho Palos Verdes. That's like where I grew up. I went to high school not too far from there. That's where Marineland used to be, where the Trump golf course is. And then they shut down Marineland. And anyway, you don't really care about that. But I like to see Trump in Palos Verdes, or I just like to see Palos Verdes in the news. Anyway, the next clip is the ABC This Week with George Stephanopoulos news summary. Martha Raddatz is hosting, and she does this thing that I criticize all the time, where she goes and talks to like the average voters after the debate in Pennsylvania. And I just think that it puts too much pressure on each interview clip to be representative of some, much larger group of voters where they never really are. And they do at least show some debate clips, and I'll talk about that a little more after we watch the second over 6-minute news summary from ABC, which you can decide whether it's better or worse than the similarly lengthed NBC News Meet the Press news summary we just watched, after we watched them juxtaposed together here.
Good morning and welcome to This Week. If you were betting that this week's ABC debate would be without high drama, verbal clashes, and one of the most memorable baseless claims in debate history, think pets in Ohio, you would be wrong. But if you were convinced that Kamala Harris would surge ahead in the polls because of her strong debate performance, you would also be wrong. Our brand new post-debate ABC Ipsos poll out this morning shows that a majority of Americans, 58%, think Harris was the victor in the debate. But while Harris still has a solid lead in the race nationally, 52 to 46% among likely voters, those numbers are almost exactly the same as before the debate. But there were some gains. 69% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents say the debate made them see Harris more favorably, which could help boost turnout for her in November. Just half as many Republicans and GOP-leaning independents, 34%, say the debate made them see Trump more favorably. And the poll shows Harris advancing among young people who say they're likely to vote in November. That's fueled by young women, with Harris leading by 38 points among those young women likely to vote. Trump, however, still leads Harris among likely voters on handling the economy and immigration. Of course, this race will all come down to the battleground states, and our 538 polling average shows it's still very much a toss-up race, including in Pennsylvania, where the debate took place, and where we got a sense of just how close the race is the morning after. It was just hours after the debate in Pennsylvania, the state that could well decide the outcome of the election, that we stopped to chat with voters, those who support Kamala Harris practically glowing.
I thought the vice president killed it.
She was just on point. She didn't let Trump frazzle her.
Quite frankly, I like Kamala's message of, more prospective, positive outlook on the future.
But we were looking for undecided voters to see what difference the face-off made. Did you know before the debate last night who you would vote for?
No, I didn't. It was up in the air. I don't have anything against women. I was just a little skeptical. I've never seen a woman run a country before, but Donald isn't 100%, so I think Kamala was a little more convincing last night.
But he is still leaving the door open in case former President Donald Trump changes his mind.
I like to hear both sides. I'm fair. Fair is fair.
For Temple College student Ben Rohrbach, neither candidate said enough to win him over yet.
It was kind of hard for me to learn anything just because there was so much talk in the room, and it was just a lot of a lot of fluff.
You wanted more specific?
I wanted more specifics.
This first-time voter is torn.
I like Kamala Harris's presence. I like the fact that she was willing to go shake President Trump's hand. Those are good things. But I feel like Donald Trump, I trust him.
Southwest of Philadelphia, at a park in Concord Township, we met Debbie Sutherland. Despite what others may have seen as Donald Trump's angry outbursts,
people don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies.
Sutherland thought he kept his cool.
I think Trump actually did pretty good controlling himself.
You do?
Yeah, I think, but I fell asleep, so I don't know if he got worse, but I think he didn't do his usual childish name-calling behavior.
Sutherland has previously supported Trump, but she's currently undecided. And what is your hesitation, if that is the right word, because you haven't made up your mind yet about Kamala Harris?
I don't know enough about her. I don't know enough. I found more information last night, but I don't know enough about her.
Independent Claire Bobiak agrees.
When she was asked direct questions, she didn't answer them. So that's why that's what's left me with, okay, I'm not quite sure yet what her policies are and so on. So I'm going to dig a little more into her policies.
And you were satisfied with the answers that Donald Trump gave?
Well, I knew them already.
10 minutes across town, Mike McDermott told us he's made up his mind and nothing will change it. Had you already made up your mind? Did it make a difference?
No, not at all.
Not
There's
at all.
facts. Facts are facts.
You're supporting
Trump. Economics. It's as simple as that.
We asked McDermott about the baseless claims made by Trump during the debate that Haitian migrants are eating pets in Ohio. McDermott bought in.
There's actually all over the internet that's on it.
But there was one voter in Pennsylvania who we met last year we were eager to see post-debate. In April of 2023, when Joe Biden was his party's candidate, Democrat Sunaye Muhammad told us she wasn't even sure she'd vote this November. So in the end, if Donald Trump is the nominee and Joe Biden is the nominee, you'd just stay home.
Probably. Get me out of bed, Joe Biden, because frankly, it's not working.
But now, after watching Kamala Harris debate, she has had, well, an awakening.
I will vote. I will vote for Kamala Harris this time. She showed, I think, her grit, her ability to pivot, to respond, to create a vision that was just incredibly impressive. So, yeah, getting out of bed is not going to be as hard this time around.
So let's take all that to Republican Governor Mike DeWine.
And I will have a clip of Republican Governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, talking about this whole eating the pets in Springfield, Ohio business. I don't know, don't you think they put like way too much pressure, especially that last woman who she wasn't going to get out of bed to go vote for Joe Biden, but now she's energized by Kamala Harris. Then apparently all the people they talked to on the street were people who, they screened them first, they watched the debate, and then they had that one woman who said Trump kept his cool, but, I fell asleep. And then there was that one guy who, wasn't sure about a woman being, I'm sure they're all real people and they represent the opinions of other people as well, but I always get worried that when you edit a piece like that, it's like the editing is what decides what viewers are going to see more than the opinions of the people in Pennsylvania. But you can let me know what you think in the comment section as I move on now to the next so-called news summary. This is the Fox News Sunday news summary, Shannon Bream and Lucas Tomlinson. Shannon Bream starts with some random, breaking stories, missiles fired from Lebanon to Israel, and SpaceX astronauts come home, and then Trump and Harris on the campaign trail. Never says the word debate in the little teaser intro before that. Never says the word debate. In fact, it's only at the very end of Lucas Tomlinson's news summary that he says the word debate without ever saying anything that happened at the debate, complaining about something that wasn't brought up at the debate. But there's also some really dishonest video editing in this Fox News Sunday news summary that I went to the trouble of proving that they dishonestly edit Senator Chris Coons because they stop in the middle of a sentence. It's pretty obvious they're taking him out of context. And after I show you the news summary, I have a couple other clips to show how they did the dishonest editing. But first, here's the Fox News Sunday news summary. In the first 30 minutes of the program, this is the only use of the word debate is at the end of this clip that I'll talk about with you a little more after we watch it together over her.
Fox News in Washington. We start with a quick look at your headlines today. Hezbollah militants in Lebanon fired dozens of projectiles into Israel overnight. All were either intercepted or fell into open areas. And a surface-to-air missile fired from Yemen managed to cross into central Israel, but also hit an unpopulated area. Billionaire Jared Isaacman and his other SpaceX crew members are safely back on Earth. Their capsule splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico this morning. The Polaris Dawn mission made history for pulling off the first private spacewalk. Both President Trump and Vice President Harris are out on the campaign trail this weekend. Trump stumping in Nevada Saturday, while Harris joined President Biden speaking at the Congressional Black Caucus dinner here in Washington last night. In a moment, our interview with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who is about to help kick off a Harris Waltz bus tour in Philadelphia later this morning. But first, we turn to Lucas Tomlinson at the White House with the very latest on the top issue for voters. It's still the economy. Lucas.
Good morning, Shannon. Grocery prices have risen by nearly 20% since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris arrived here at the White House nearly 3.5 years ago. And inflation remains a top issue among voters.
I will always put middle-class working people first. It will always be my priority.
According to the Labor Department, the annual inflation rate slowed in August to 2.5%, its lowest level since February 2021, paving the way for the Federal Reserve to likely cut interest rates this week for the first time in 4 years. For many Americans, prices remain too high. The same goods and services from the month Biden and Harris took office now cost over $1,000 more on average in the 7 swing states. That's over $12,000 a year compared to 4 years ago. Democrats acknowledge that's a problem.
It is a challenge for us on the campaign to connect and communicate with people about the answer to this question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Because a lot of folks don't want to think about where we were.
A new report by the Census Bureau says Pennsylvania was one of just 4 states whose median household income fell over the last 2 years when adjusted for inflation. Vice President Kamala Harris now says she does not want to ban fracking, a key issue in energy-rich Pennsylvania, the nation's second-largest producer of natural gas. Earlier this year, the administration paused new permits for liquefied natural gas exports, an issue currently being fought in court. According to AAA, a gallon of regular gas now averages $3.22 nationwide, about 17% cheaper than a year ago, but still 35% higher than the day Biden and Harris took office. And the national debt is now over $35 trillion, an issue that did not come up during the debate. Shannon?
I'd like to hear the plans for that from both sides. Lucas Tomlinson from the White House. Thank you, Lucas. Joining us now, Pennsylvania Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro.
So, yeah, you saw that Lucas Tomlinson complained that the issue of the deficit didn't come up at the debate, but he never mentioned the debate anywhere in his news summary, neither did Shannon Bream. Shannon Bream didn't ask Josh Shapiro anything about what happened at the debate, or Lindsey Graham. Neither one, they didn't talk about the eating cats and dogs or any of the other many the Trump abortion, refusing to say he would veto a national abortion ban. Even that didn't come up with Lindsey Graham. They just talked about foreign policy with Lindsey Graham and mostly about Pennsylvania issues, fracking and voting ballot issues in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Never brought up the debate anywhere in that in fact, the entire first 30 minutes of Fox News Sunday. That you just saw the only use of the word debate. But there was also something else in there where they took Senator Chris Coons' answer on a CNN interview last Thursday totally out of context to make it seem like Democrats don't have the answer to, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? By the way, they show the gas price in the middle of a pandemic, but they never even mention the pandemic, which was what Senator Chris Coons was talking about. But let me just show you again the 30 seconds from that news summary I just showed you, where they take Senator Chris Coons out of context over here.
The same goods and services from the month Biden and Harris took office now cost over $1,000 more on average in the 7 swing states. That's over $12,000 a year compared to 4 years ago. Democrats acknowledge that's a problem.
It is a challenge for us on the campaign to connect and communicate with people about the answer to this question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Because a lot of folks don't want to think about where we were.
A new report by the Census.
A lot of folks don't want us to think about where we were. ... Well, let's see the whole Chris Coons answer from last Thursday over
It
here.
is a challenge for us on the campaign to connect and communicate with people about the answer to this question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Because a lot of folks don't want to think about where we were in September of 2020, We were in a terrible place. The economy was in a free fall. Businesses were shutting down by the tens of thousands. Americans were dying of the pandemic every single day. We were in a very desperate and difficult place 4 years ago, and we are a lot better off today. But your average American doesn't associate the economic chaos and the failure to deliver of that period with Donald Trump. So it is our job, our challenge, to remind them.
So yeah, he was kind of talking about pandemic amnesia, and people like don't want to think about how bad things were in September 2020, 4 years ago, and that got totally sanitized out of that Fox News story, which was pretty bogus. And I think it qualifies as I could put it on my Fox News bias in its video editing playlist that I have like 20 something examples on, I think. But I also want to show you, they never showed one clip from the debate anywhere on Fox News Sunday. In fact, I think Fox News is trying to forget that debate happened. You know, I watched their response at the beginning. First, they tried to claim that, the debate was biased because it was 3-on-1 because they fact-checked Trump 5 times and didn't fact-check Kamala Harris, but they didn't really compare how many different, what did he tell? Like 30-something lies and... So he's like a font of misinformation. He says so many false things. It's almost like bias. They only fact-checked him 5 times. And actually, when I was watching the debate, I thought that there was a bias against Kamala Harris in that they let Trump jump in over and over again when the rule said like it was time to move to the next topic. They let him get in like 1 more minute several times, and Kamala Harris tried to do it once and they stopped her. I mean, at least to that extent, I thought that the moderators were biased against her. And if you look at the amount of time they spoke, he spoke like over 5 minutes more. It was like 42 minutes to 37 minutes, something like that, in that range. So they did give him a lot more speaking time. And the problem was the way he used his extra time. He lost the debate not because of the moderators, but I put a link down under sources. You can see the entire debate free on YouTube on the ABC News channel if you want to relive it. There's so many, like for the first 10 minutes or so, she seemed a little nervous and he was kind of controlled. And I thought maybe, who knows what might happen. But once she mentioned how people were leaving his rallies, he just lost it and he never got it back. So you can go watch it yourself. But anyway, on Fox News, they never mentioned the debate in the first half of the show. And then finally in the second half of the show, in the middle of Mark Meredith's story, he briefly mentioned that they show like some video of the debate and then their reactions to the debate. They show Trump claiming victory in the debate. But even some Trump allies think he'll miss some opportunities. That's like the closest they get to telling the story to their viewers on Fox News Sunday. This is more than halfway through the program with Shannon Bream's introduction over here.
Both Vice President Harris and former President Trump are pitching their economic plans to voters in battleground states this weekend, as it looks more and more likely that just a few states are actually going to decide this entire race. Fox News correspondent Mark Meredith reports from Las Vegas.
Shannon, greetings from Las Vegas, where former President Trump doubled down on a pledge to cut taxes on tips, overtime pay, even Social Security benefits. Trump pivoting hard to the economy in this swing state, and it's a state that Vice President Harris is also fighting hard for. Former President Trump spent Saturday thanking members of Las Vegas's police union, vowing, if elected, to further boost the nation's law enforcement community.
I just want to thank you. It's an honor to be here. And I'm with you guys all the way.
Trump returns to the trail this week with stops planned in Michigan, New York, and North Carolina. But Trump says he has no plans to get back on the debate stage.
A couple of nights ago, we had an even better victory. We took her on, comrade Kamala Harris.
Pundits and even some Trump supporters criticized Trump's debate performance, one senator calling it a missed opportunity. Speaking in Pennsylvania Friday, the vice president claimed Trump has lost his edge.
It was the same old show, the same tired playbook we've heard for years, with no plan on how he would address the needs of the American people.
Harris has yet to hold a news conference since becoming the Democratic nominee, but her campaign insists she's not ducking the press.
You're going to see the vice president continue to talk to the press, continue to engage with the media and do interviews. It's part of this campaign.
Vice President Harris, she returns to the campaign trail this week, too. 3 stops in battleground states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. She'll also team up with superstar Oprah Winfrey for a virtual rally. Shannon?
All right, Mark Meredith, thank you very much.
So yeah, that was their coverage of the debate. They did briefly discuss it in the panel discussion, where they had the one person supposedly on the left say, well, they both had their strong and weak moments in the debate. Didn't really say that Kamala Harris won, and then they went off onto, they talked about the bias of the moderators, and anyway, that was pretty ridiculous, and I think I'm done with the Fox News bias portion of the program, and I'm not going to show you any clips on they didn't even talk about the eating cats and dogs moment or any of the moments from the debate, as I've said over and over again, which this next news summary is less than 90 seconds. CNN State of the Union Danabash actually manages to give you more information about the debate and what was said in it than you saw in all those Fox News clips I just showed. Check this out.
Hello, I'm Danabash in Washington, where the State of our Union is doing the math. We are 51 days from the election, and together with their running mates, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are focusing on the states that will decide the next president, with the race apparently deadlocked after what could be the only Harris-Trump debate. But Donald Trump is also doubling down on a baseless claim that he made at the debate, that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating people's pets. Local officials and the state's Republican governor say there is absolutely no evidence of that claim, and they are warning it is actually hurting their city. Springfield, Ohio is facing a 4th day of threats over the claims that have forced a college, hospitals, and schools to lock down. Meanwhile, Springfield police say they received 2 calls about Proud Boys marching through the city. Here's how Donald Trump responded to the controversy over Haitians, who, I want to note, are in the U.S. legally.
I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. Springfield was this beautiful town, and now they're going through hell.
Here with me now is Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance.
And I'm going to show you like half of the I think it's like 14-minute cross-examination Danabash did on J.D. Vance, almost all on this issue of their eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio. And you saw Danabash did point out that these are legal Haitian immigrants. And that's what I was complaining about at the beginning of the live stream, that they spent so much time on this one issue. It's the immigration issue that Trump does best on in the polls over Kamala Harris. And even though the substance, they're eating the cats and dogs, is false, the illegal immigrants that have destroyed the city is false. I'm going to show you Republican Governor Mike DeWine, clip 13, talking about how the Haitian immigrants are actually really good workers and are helping the economy of Springfield, Ohio. There is some, if you bring 15,000 people into a town of I think was it 48,000, or it'll come up in one of these news stories or one of these questions coming up. But I think that's what it is. 15,000 immigrants into a town of like 40 something thousand. That's going to put us some pressure on, schools and hospitals and other government services. But that's not the same as the fear mongering that you just saw from Trump. And anyway, before I can get to the newsmaker clips, including a couple J.D. Vance cross-examinations, there is sort of one more news summary. It's it's like the non-news summary from the beginning of Face the Nation.
Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. We have a lot to get to this morning, and we begin with Republican vice presidential nominee Senator J.D. Vance.
Yeah, so Margaret Brennan also had Senator J.D. Vance, and also spent like the entire time talking to him about eating cats and dogs, so Haitians eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio, just like Dana Bash did on CNN. It was, if you, by the way, down in the video description under sources, if you click the Face the Nation link, it goes to the Face the Nation YouTube channel. You can watch the entire interview, the entire program, and you can see what I'm talking about. Because I didn't take another clip of J.D. Vance getting cross-examined on the eating cats and dogs thing. I only really need one of those. But Kristen Welker on NBC News Meet the Press, to her credit, actually asked him about other things. She's the one who asked him about the concept of a plan on healthcare after all these years not actually having a plan. And that actually came right after she cross-examined him on what Trump said on abortion. And if you remember 3 weeks ago, I showed a clip of J.D. Vance talking to Kristen Welker, and I criticized her because at one point he said Trump explicitly said that he would veto a national abortion ban if it came to his desk when he's president. J.D. Vance said that, and Kristen Welker didn't really follow up. She said, he said that to you? And J.D. Vance never answered, and she never really got the answer. Well, that actually came up at the debate, and Trump threw J.D. Vance under the bus and said, no, I never talked to him about it, and wouldn't answer the question, saying it's just ridiculous because they'll never pass that bill. Well, if you can put an exception in the filibuster if you care about it enough, that's possible. Something could happen with Kamala Harris's election if they have at least 50 Democratic senators who are willing to put an exception in the filibuster. You know, last time Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema would not put an exception in the filibuster for voting rights or reproductive rights. Well, that could happen, and it could happen the reverse way with the Republicans. They could get rid of the filibuster. They could put an exception in there if they win both houses and have, they don't need to get over the filibuster if they do an exception. And so that response from both J.D. Vance and Trump is not really that reassuring, but that's what J.D. Vance tries to say. Kristen Welker shows the clip from 3 weeks ago, but doesn't really bring up the fact that she didn't follow up and get his answer. But here's his answer yesterday on the abortion topic over here.
Start with the topic of abortion. The issue of a federal abortion ban came up in the debate this week, including the comments that you made here on this program last month. Take a look. If such a piece of legislation landed on Donald Trump's desk, would he veto it?
Well, I think it'd be very clear he would not support it. I mean, he said that explicitly. Yeah, I mean, if you're not supporting it as the president of the United States, you fundamentally have to veto it.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban?
I think he would. He said that explicitly, that he would.
And then, Senator, here's what Donald Trump said on the debate stage.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if you did.
I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't.
Senator Vance, just to clarify once and for all, if Donald Trump were to be elected, if a federal abortion ban were to land on his desk, would he veto it?
Well, Kristen, as you saw the president say, we hadn't discussed it. We still haven't discussed it, by the way, because it's not realistic, Kristen. I think that was the point that he made during the debate, is he's been incredibly clear that he doesn't support a national abortion ban. He wants abortion policy to be made by the states because he thinks, look, Alabama's going to make a different decision from California, and that's okay. We're a big country. We can disagree. The best way to actually facilitate us coming together, despite that disagreement, is by allowing each individual state to make their own abortion policy. So I think President Trump has been clear. A national abortion ban is not on the table. He wouldn't support it. He wouldn't sign it. And I think, frankly, Kristen, it's kind of a ridiculous hypothetical, because if a national abortion ban was brought before the United States Senate right now, it would get at best 10 senators out of 100. So I think we should talk about issues that actually might come before the president, like our approach to lowering energy prices, to lowering grocery prices, to making housing more affordable, which all have gone in the wrong direction under Kamala Harris's policies. His point is that it was a hypothetical, and not a hypothetical that has any chance of actually crossing his desk.
I take your point, but just to put a fine point on this, you're saying he wouldn't support it. So would he veto it?
Kristen, I think that I've learned my lesson on speaking for the president before he and I have actually talked about an issue. What he has said at the debate, which is quite explicit, is he doesn't support a national ban. He thinks it's ridiculous to talk about vetoing a piece of legislation that isn't going to come before the president in the first place.
All right, let's zoom out a little bit, Senator, and talk more.
So then they talk about health care and how Trump doesn't have a plan. And like I said, kudos to Kristen Welker for actually talking to him about other issues than the Haitian immigrants eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio issue that I think the Trump campaign, maybe that was the whole point. I mean, it is a tactic that Trump uses. He's even explicitly said that he is, willing to lie, make things or exaggerate certain issues so that the media will actually, say outrageous things so that the media will cover the issues he wants covered. And that actually is what happened, almost is what J.D. Vance says in this next clip. I mean, he does actually say it, and then he takes it back a little bit. Like I said, I'm only going to show you, this is over 6 minutes of Dana Bash cross-examining J.D. Vance on is he going to admit that it's false that immigrants are eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio? And he keeps saying, well, I'm hearing this from constituents, and why should I believe what you're telling me when I'm hearing this? And it's always like second, third-hand stories. And you'll see by the end of this, Dana Bash is asking him, if you know anyone with evidence, we'd like to hear from them. But like halfway through this clip, you'll see that J.D. Vance, or maybe a little less than half, J.D. Vance says that he's willing to create stories if it gets the media to focus on the suffering of the American people. And that sounds very much like he's saying he's willing to lie to get the media to put the attention where he wants it to be. And that's gotten a lot of play on MSNBC and the mainstream media, although if you play the whole thing, and that's why I'm playing this whole clip here, when Dana Bash calls him on it, he says, no, I don't mean you make up the stories. When I say create stories, I mean create news coverage of the stories. But I don't know, that's not really what he said, but it's also not really honest of the places showing him saying that he's willing to create stories without showing his response to being called on it. And I'll talk about that. Oh, and by the way, if you want to see the whole cross-examination or read the whole cross-examination in the live comments, I just put the CNN State of the Union transcript. This comes like halfway through when she's trying to like nail him down on, are you going to admit that the rumor is based on nothing? And it goes on another 6 minutes from there over in this clip.
Just once and for all, you again started this in part by saying that, at which Donald Trump repeated on the debate stage, that, and he didn't say anything about the policies that you're talking about. He just said Haitians are eating dogs and cats. Can you affirmatively say now that that is a rumor that has no basis with evidence?
Dana, the evidence is the first-hand account of my constituents who are telling me that this happened. And by the way, I've been trying to talk about the problems in Springfield for months, and the American media ignored it. There was a congressional hearing just last week of angel moms who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to,
but it wasn't just a meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her. You talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that you're
creating
creating a
story about public policy.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a story that you created. So the eating dogs and cats thing is not
We are
accurate.
creating, Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my constituents. I say that we're creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media focusing on it. I didn't create 20,000 illegal migrants coming into Springfield thanks to Kamala Harris's policies. Her policies did that, but yes, we created the actual focus that allowed the American media to talk about this story and the suffering caused by Kamala Harris's policies.
Do you condemn the Proud Boys, even if it's just 12, even if it's just one marching in Springfield?
Dana, I condemn all white supremacists. I'm obviously not. I'm married to a non-white person. I don't like these people, but I think that we have to keep our focus not on 12 marchers going down the street, but on the fact that thousands of residents have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's policy. I find this very unusual, Dana, that the American media is more interested in a bunch of losers marching down the street than they are in the fact that Kamala Harris has made these people's lives worse. I'm not talking about 12 Proud Boys. I'm talking about 40,000 residents, 40,000 constituents of mine, many of whom can't afford housing and food because of Kamala Harris's open border. That is what I want to focus the media's attention on. We're going to keep on doing it because I think the American people deserve a government that puts their interests first. Can I make just one more final point about this, Dana?
Yes, please.
You've heard a lot of the media focusing on every possible distraction from the story in Springfield. You've heard them focus on these Proud Boys marches. You've heard just in this interview, Dana, the suggestion that because some psychopath is calling in a bomb threat, somehow we have to then ignore 40,000 Springfieldians who are having their lives worsened by Kamala Harris's policies. Well, what is the implication, Dana? I actually love to have this conversation right now live on air.
Right.
What is the implication when you say you calling out these problems has caused a bomb threat? You accused me of causing a bomb threat. Doesn't that mean you should shut up about the residents of Springfield? Don't you realize you're engaged in basic propaganda to silence the concerns of American citizens?
I was quoting the actual mayor of Springfield, Ohio, begging after the bomb threats, begging federal officials, to please stop putting negative attention on his city. And I'm not talking about the policies. I'm not talking about the very real challenges that Springfield has. I'm talking about baseless rumors about Haitians eating dogs and cats. And that, after that was said on a debate stage, that is when these bomb threats started. And that is a fact. Senator, I just want to move on. I have two other quick issues separate from this that I want to talk to you about.
Dana,
go ahead.
Again,
please go ahead.
I think this is actually an important conversation.
Okay.
Look, the Springfield mayor, he's dealing with a lot of terrible things. I certainly sympathize with the guy, and we're going to try to help him out. But he did not accuse me of inciting a bomb threat. He just didn't. And if we're going to take the firsthand accounts of people who are on the ground in Springfield, why don't you bring on some of the people on your program who say that the migrants are eating their pets? You're applying a double standard here. You're saying if one person accuses J.D. Vance, I'm going to take that person's word as the gospel truth,
you have somebody
even if you misrepresent it. If you have another person who's saying they're eating the cats, you're going to completely ignore them, attack them, silence them, and harass them. That double standard is why that people don't trust the media and why we're not talking about public policy 51 days out from a presidential election.
Okay. If you have somebody you want to tell us about who has proof that somebody ate their cat, of course we want to hear that. We certainly have had no evidence that that is actually something that happened. And I just want to say, I have not accused you of anything. I am quoting the mayor who said, after these bomb threats, federal politicians are negatively spinning our city. They need to know they are hurting our city. It was their words that did it. Okay? That I'm quoting him, and it seems to be a
Dana,
cause and effect.
Roll the tape. You just accused me of inciting a bomb threat. There's no evidence of this. I condemn violence and threats of violence. We should be able to do that and also still talk about what's going on in Springfield.
I'm glad to hear that you condemn it. That is very important. We had a lot of other issues to get to, but I really hope that you do come back so we can talk about other issues. Senator, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dana.
I like her little head shake at the end there. That's why I kept it playing all the way through there. But she didn't really get to any other issues. If you look at that transcript of the CNN State of the Union program that she spent, I think it's like 14-minute interview. It was all on trying to get him to say it was just a rumor, and he kept saying that I'm hearing it from firsthand from constituents, but he didn't give any names. I mean, he's talking about there's some like video that's unverified coming from like Akron, Ohio, or some other city in Ohio. But I mean, the whole thing just concentrating on so much, I think in some ways plays into the Trump campaign's hands, as I've been saying throughout the live stream. Dana Bash did have the mayor of Springfield on in the rebroadcast hour of State of the Union at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I guess it's noon Eastern time. They have a rebroadcast, and they rebroadcast most of the program, but then they included a new interview with the mayor of Springfield, who said a lot of the same things you're going to see in this next clip, which is like the true information that is not getting covered. I mean, the whole Trump strategy of like focusing on this fake story about immigrants in Ohio so that people focus on immigration where many Americans are scared and think, apparently mass deportations have gotten a plurality of the vote in some polls. It's like especially because Fox News is doing it all day, every day. Biden's border crisis. And even though the crossings are way down now, and there are still ways that they're trying to find to make people scared, like this whole eating the dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio story, which even if the story itself is fake, makes people think that there is this invasion of immigrants that are hurting cities like Springfield, Ohio. Well, here's the Republican governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, saying over and over again that entire narrative is totally false, that the Haitian immigrants, though, like I was saying earlier, they put some strain on, the local government infrastructure. They're actually really good for Springfield for reasons that I'll talk about a little more after we watch that clip together from Martha Raddatz on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos together over here.
You have said that you don't oppose the program that allowed some 15,000 Haitians to migrate there in Ohio, in Springfield, Ohio. But former President Trump and J.D. Vance, who you support, have doubled down on baseless claims that former President Trump made at the debate. Let's listen to that again.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
And here's a question I never thought I would have to ask, but do you see any evidence as governor of the state that Haitian immigrants are eating pets?
No, absolutely not. That's what the mayor said. That's what the chief of police has said. I think it's unfortunate that this came up. Let me tell you what we do know, though. What we know is that the Haitians who are in Springfield are legal. They came to Springfield to work. Ohio is on the move, and Springfield has really made a great resurgence with a lot of companies coming in. These Haitians came in to work for these companies. What the companies tell us is that they are very good workers. They're very happy to have them there. And frankly, that's helped the economy. Now, are there problems connected? Well, sure. When you go from a population of 58,000 and add 15,000 people onto that, you're going to have some challenges and some problems. And we're addressing those. We're working on those every single day. Primary care is essential. The other thing we're working a lot on is driving. We have Haitians who, frankly, many times have not driven before. We need to get more driver's training, and we're working on that. So these are things that we are working on. Springfield is moving forward. I've always felt that, as the governor of the state of Ohio, we want people who want to come here who are legal, where they come from another state or another country, who want to work.
So Governor, let me.
That is really moving forward.
So bottom line is you are asking for federal help. No one was eating any pets in Springfield, Ohio. So what would you say to Donald Trump for bringing up those baseless stories? Is it responsible for a presidential candidate, the former president of the United States, to make those baseless claims?
Look, there's a lot of garbage on the internet. And, this is a piece of garbage that was simply not true. There's no evidence of this at all. And look, here's what we're starting to see.
But I want you to address what you would say. Okay, but I do want you to address what you would say to Donald Trump.
Yeah. There are hate groups coming into Springfield. We don't need these hate groups. I saw a piece of literature yesterday that the mayor told me about from purportedly the KKK. Look, Springfield is a good city. They are good people. They're welcoming people. We have challenges every day. We are working on those challenges. Haitians are culturally, my wife Fran and I have seen this when we've been down in Haiti, the education is prized. So when you look at all of these things, people who want to work, people who value their kids, who value education, these are positive influences on our community in Springfield. And any comment about that otherwise, I think is hurtful and is not helpful to the city of Springfield and the people of Springfield. This is a state on the move. It's a city on the move. These Haitians can be part of this, but there are challenges. And, I've talked to people at the White House. We need additional assistance. I think when you...
Governor, I did let you talk there for a few minutes. I do want to go back to this. You had threats there in Springfield. Hospitals had to close. Schools had to close because of bomb threats. You are a huge supporter of J.D. Vance. He spread this conspiracy. 11 million people saw it on X. Look, is there a connection between threats to your state and what President Trump said and what J.D. Vance is doing online?
I think these discussions about Haitians eating dogs and cats and other things needs to stop. We need to focus on what is important. What is important is that we get primary care health to everyone in a very growing city, that we do other things in regard to housing. These are kind of basic things that we need to do. We need to focus on those and not this discussion about Haitians eating dogs. It's just not helpful. And again, these people are here legally. They're here legally. And they want to work, and they are, in fact, working. And when you talk to the employers, what the employers tell you is, we don't know what we would do without them. They are working, and they are working very hard, and they're fitting in with our native people from Springfield who have been working in this shop or working in this manufacturing company for a long, long time. So that's what we need to focus on. And, this idea that we have hate groups coming in and this discussion just has to stop. We need to focus on moving forward and not dogs and cats being eaten. It's just ridiculous.
Also on Tuesday night, Trump refused to accept again the 2020 election.
So Martha Raddatz there gives up and moves on. Although it was kind of nice to hear Governor DeWine, a Republican, say over and over again how these immigrants were legal and good for the economy. It was a town of 58,000, got it, 15,000 legal immigrants. But Martha Raddatz kept trying to say, well, J.D. Vance, who's a senator from your state who you were a big supporter of, and Trump, who you also support, they're the ones saying this stuff that are hurting people in Ohio. Will you tell them to stop? And he just says, these stories have to stop. But he doesn't say they have to stop. He just says the rumors, the false stories have to stop. And I mean, it's kind of crazy. How can Republicans like Governor DeWine, who know the fear-mongering and the lying and the demagoguery that both J.D. Vance and Trump are engaged in, and Governor DeWine accepts the outcome of the election, which that was another one of the crazy clips from Trump. He still said the 2020 election was stolen and and he said it was sarcastic when he said he lost by a whisker. I'm going off on a big long tangent here, and I didn't mean to do that. But one thing that Governor Mike DeWine blamed this all on was that there was so much garbage on the internet. Like, of course, Trump is responsible for promoting a lot of that garbage, and J.D. Vance promoted this for days on the internet before the debate. And Chris Krebbs, who is famous for being in the Trump administration and saying the 2020 election, he was like head of cybersecurity or something, and he was famous for saying the 2020 election was one of the most secure and fair in history or something like that, as, a cybersecurity expert. Well, he was over on CBS's Face the Nation talking to Margaret Brennan, where she asks about, this information environment we're in, where the eating cats and dogs stuff goes from the internet to like a presidential debate, and how should we address that. Now, one of the things he says by the end here is we have to be able to, figure out who the authority figures are and who to trust. But that's the thing. Trump and JD Vance are running to be the authority figures, and they are completely untrustworthy, which I wish Governor Mike DeWine had to deal with that. But anyway, this is the last newsmaker clip before the bonus Cheech and Chong clip at the end that Cheech and Chong, the kittens clip, I'll show after the final newsmaker clip. Chris Krebbs explaining how we should deal with rumors and misinformation on the internet over here.
Chris, I want to talk about some of the information environment issues that we are in. It is not every Face the Nation that we begin talking about rumors of cats and dogs and geese in Ohio. The reason we're doing it is because the Republican nominee on the debate stage repeated something that started as a Facebook rumor that got amplified, that the senator from Ohio says resulted in calls to his office. You've watched this kind of echo chamber and ecosystem of information. What do you make of a moment like this, and how frequently things like this get replicated now? Like, how does someone at home navigate truth when I went through fact check after fact check, the police chief, the mayor, the governor, and again and again and again, I was told, nope, you're wrong.
Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever, it's not the real world. It's not reality. And so it provides an environment where specious claims like this can catch fire, but they tend to be constrained to that platform. What we saw on Tuesday was the firewall between mainstream and reality in this extremely online ecosystem break down, and they crossed over. And keep in mind that these social media platforms, well, Facebook has 1 billion plus users on a monthly basis. X has much, much fewer. And so what happened Tuesday night was the vast majority of people, there were 57 million, I think, viewers of the debate. The vast majority of them had never heard about this cats and dogs being barbecued in Springfield, Ohio. And I expected it because, unfortunately, David and I have to live in this world to anticipate what's coming. And so I had seen it going through social media for a couple days, and I fully expected it to jump into the conversation, go mainstream, and boom, there it is. So to your question, or to your point, how does one kind of, introduce some kind of personal resilience here? And it's exactly doing what you do. Go to mainstream outlets and trusted outlets and do a little bit of fact check and verification, and listen to the public officials, listen to Governor DeWine, listen to the mayor and the city manager. Who's to know better than someone that's actually willing to put their face in their name to a claim rather than someone randomly on a social media platform?
And this will become increasingly relevant as we get to voting and going to voting facilities. Not Facebook rumors, the elected officials, the people who hold office. That's who we as journalists cite.
Yes.
And that's who people at home should look to.
Well, and to David's point about vote.gov and having a voting plan, yes, that is absolutely critical. But when you do come across rumors online of registration dates changing or voting locations or precincts closing, there are ways that you as an individual voter can go confirm, and that tends to go to the local election official or the Secretary of State. Trusted Info 2024, that's the campaign that the National Association of Secretaries of State and the National Association of State Election Directors have mounted now for 3 election cycles in a row. It's go to the authoritative source in your jurisdiction, which tends to be your Secretary of State, your state election director, or your local election officials.
So that's some useful information about the life, the lifespan, the course of the life of an internet rumor, I guess. I don't know what it, or the information space we're living in, as Margaret Brennan put it. The He said that there were 57 million viewers for the debate. I happen to know there were 67 million viewers because last week I predicted it would be 60 or 70 million, and it was right in between. So that was another one of my predictions from last week that came true. I don't know if Chris Krebbs actually predicted we'd be talking about dogs and cats getting eaten in Ohio before the debate, but I did predict that Trump would have embarrassing lapses, and that was proven right over and over again. If you don't believe me, like I said, down in the video description, there's a link to, under sources, to the entire debate on the ABC News website. I also have the links to all the other sources, and I'm going to finish up the program, but I did promise I would have a bonus clip of Cheech and Chong the kittens. You did see Chong at the very beginning of the program, although he didn't really want to be held and on camera at that moment, I guess. And then Cheech climbed up behind me, but earlier I did get a picture of them showing their like sibling affection over on a chair, and I'll finish as the bonus Cheech and Chong clip before I say goodbye over here. Oh, they're so cute. They fight, they bite each other, but then they do stuff like that. That's I don't know, cats and at least they're not getting eaten in Ohio, I guess. So maybe that's an antidote to the whole cats and dogs getting eaten in Ohio story that, like I said, in some ways is helping the Trump campaign win the post-debate spin. And then, of course, there was the breaking news yesterday about someone with a gun at the Trump International Golf Course in Palm Beach, Florida, and that helped the Trump campaign get another news cycle away. I mean, not that I'm saying they were responsible, but it was just another news event that helped them move another news cycle away from the debate that they're trying to pretend didn't happen, trying to pretend that they won, trying to pretend was biased. I don't know. They had various different ways to respond to the debate. And who knows, maybe if the polls actually shift towards Kamala Harris, as I think they might. There's been I just showed you news programs showing that the polls hadn't changed after the debate much at all, but Georgia and North Carolina have come into play when, their toss-ups when they were more lean Trump before. So that's not nothing. And it may take a while for the effect of the debate and the effect of the campaigns to start shifting. Bill Maher said last Friday that he thinks that Trump has finally jumped the shark. Well, he didn't say jump the shark, but this is the time where he's finally the crazy old man that nobody wants to listen to anymore. Maybe that's happening. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if he were soundly rejected and all 7 of those battleground states went to Kamala Harris and he went off to his sentencing on his many felonies as a big loser, and the Republican Party finally rejected him? I can dream. That would be the optimal outcome that we can get out of this whole, Back to the Future 2 casino owning Biff is president timeline that nobody wanted and we're hoping will end. Well, maybe it will end, as I explained, but I will be back next Monday and every Monday all the way through the inauguration in January, covering whether it ends that way or not, whether the person who gets inaugurated in January is the same one who wins in November. All these things will be covered. I might make a video I did sort of a Fox News bias video in there already. I might take that out or somehow, about the bias video editing and the Fox News Sunday news summary. I might make a video about that during the week if I have time. Otherwise, if I don't have time for another live stream or another video this week, then I'll see you all next Monday. And until then, I'll see you all around the internet.